I spotted a girl in the adult section, instantly putting on a shy act, even talking to the plastic mannequins in the store. Before heading home, he doused the doorway with alcohol, masking his scent and the scent of his dog. By sunset, he locked the 10-centimeter thick steel door. When night fell, the city sank into fear. The streets were empty, except for the low growls of the night demons. They were infected humans, terrified of sunlight, lurking in the shadows by day, hunting by night. And he was the city's last survivor. 3 years ago, he was a military scientist in charge of New York's epidemic control. A drug promising to cure cancer had been released. 90% of the world's population took it. Yeah, only to turn into monsters within days. The virus went out of control. The city collapsed. He sent his wife and daughter onto a helicopter with his own hands, only to watch it collide and crash before his eyes. Since that day, all he had left was his dog. For 3 years, he experimented with serum, capturing the infected, recording every failed attempt. That day, he chased a moose about to take the shot when a lioness lunged out, followed by a male lion and a cub. Watching the family of 3, he lowered his gun. In that moment, he remembered his own lost family. Even beasts understood protection and togetherness. Night fell again. He curled up with his dog in the bathtub, holding his shotgun tight, eyes steely. In a world where he was the last human, he wasn't just fighting to survive, he was fighting to make humanity legendary once more. The woman had just pulled down her pants, preparing to use the restroom, when suddenly a violent tremor shook her feet. She immediately crouched down, feeling the direction of the tremor on the tracks. This was her only chance to escape. The woman and her companions ran frantically, knowing that if they could board a train around the corner, they could shake off the hunters, because they were being hunted. Not long ago, she and a group of strangers woke up simultaneously, with iron balls stuffed in their mouths, surrounded by endless wasteland. They didn't know each other until the first bullet fell from the sky. They realized they had become part of a game. The woman's name was Amy. She had narrowly escaped the wilderness and arrived at a gas station. The seemingly ordinary elderly couple greeted her warmly, and Amy, feeling grateful, pulled a wad of change from her sock to pay. However, she quickly realized something was wrong. The bag of candy only cost $6, but the old woman had given her $3 in change. This elderly couple wasn't kind at all. They were part of a game. Just as the old woman reached for her weapon, Amy swiftly dispatched the couple. But the outside world remained a trap. A car that seemed capable of escape had its license plate deliberately obscured, and a silver wire was attached to the handle, with a bomb strapped to the other end. Meanwhile, a fat man also escaped the Death Manor. Amy desperately tried to stop him from driving, and finally gained his trust, only to watch helplessly as he shot down an enemy drone, revealing their location. This game was never about survival, but about who was smarter, who could see through the lies, and who would survive to the end. And Amy was the one who made all the hunters regret starting the game. The woman got pregnant by accident and was abandoned by her boyfriend. To avoid family shame, her father found her a husband in the countryside. When they first met, Paul was so nervous he couldn't even look up, his hands trembling as he poured her water. By that afternoon, they were married. At the wedding, Paul forgot the rings, but Carrie didn't care. This marriage was nothing more than her father's arrangement. Her heart still belonged to the man who had left her. When she arrived at Paul's house, she regretted it instantly. It was remote, quiet, and painfully simple. Yet Paul eagerly showed her every corner of the house, even giving her the sunniest bedroom. After a modest dinner, they silently went back to their separate rooms. Paul wrote down every small detail about their first day together, while Carrie held her pendant, staring at an old photo through tears. The next day, she told Paul she wanted to go to town to make a call. He put down his work immediately and drove her there. In the phone booth, she cried to her sister, if father wanted to punish me, he already has. Meanwhile, Paul went to the library, not only to borrow the cookbook she wanted, but also the book she had casually mentioned the day before. He taught her to drive his truck, took her out rowing on the lake, and little by little, his kindness melted her guard. Carrie began to smile again, but at night she still wrote letters to the man who would never write back. She convinced herself he was just out of reach, so she kept sending those letters, though no reply ever came.
On her way home, a woman saw countless cars collide, blocking the entire road. The cars were empty. She peered through the windshield and saw the unmanned driving sign. A chill ran down her spine. The next second, a car hurtled toward her. She swerved and fled. Behind her, countless cars swarmed. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, narrowly avoiding them. Finally, she made it home. She turned on her computer. The internet was down. The phone had no signal. The couple thought it was just a minor glitch. But late into the night, it still hadn't been restored. They could only play with their building blocks to pass the time. Suddenly, there was a rapid knock on the door. The husband grabbed a stick and slowly opened the door. Standing outside were the landlord and his wife. They had encountered a power outage on their way back to the city, and their navigation system had stopped working, so they had to return to their old house for the night. The couple welcomed them in. As soon as they entered the house, the alarm suddenly blared. The night was dark, and everyone had to retreat to their rooms. The next day, the woman awoke. She picked up her phone and found several news reports. The national network had been hacked attacked last night. She hurried to tell her husband, but when he woke up, the news had mysteriously disappeared. The phone fell silent again. Strange things happened one after another. The little girl walked into the yard and suddenly screamed. The adults rushed out. They saw countless elk gathered around them. Their eyes were glazed, and they stood in a neat row, as if waiting for some signal. The air froze. The atmosphere was oppressive. An unprecedented disaster was quietly approaching. Because of her ordinary appearance, her husband had long since moved on. That day, her ex-husband was supposed to take their daughter to the music festival, but Annie was the one who took her instead. Upon arrival, she and the children separated. She needed to use the restroom, mistaking a trailer for a bathroom. The moment she pushed the door open, a man emerged. Leo, the band's lead singer. Annie, embarrassed, tried to escape, but he stopped her. She hurriedly explained that she was only there to accompany her daughter. Just then, her manager urged Leo to come on stage. Annie took the opportunity to leave, but her heart was still captivated by his perfect figure. The music festival began. Leo changed the song at the last minute, confessing his love to her on stage in a love song. The audience was excited, but Annie was the only one who felt uneasy. She was no longer young, but the long-lost heartbeat still made her blush. After the performance, Annie returned to work. Unexpectedly, Leo showed up in person, lying that he wanted to buy art. He shamelessly got into her car. There were so many fans along the way. Annie had no choice but to take him home to avoid trouble. Leo finally mustered the courage to speak frankly about his feelings. The air froze, and Annie, overcome by emotion, actually kissed him, but her reasoning snapped back, and she hastily pushed him away. Leo, however, remained undeterred. He admired her maturity and grace, even deliberately leaving his watch on the table, setting the stage for their next meeting. As he disappeared outside, Annie's heart still raced. However, her daughter had already entered the house. She hurriedly fixed her hair, but her daughter's sharp eyes had already seen through everything.
The couple was making out in their car when a sudden bang shattered the moment. It felt like they had hit something. The woman stepped out to check. A young boy lay on the ground, lifeless. She got back in, shaken, but before she could speak, the man slammed on the gas, dragging her into a frantic escape. Coldly, her husband muttered, "No one will ever know it was us." They thought they'd gotten away with it, but they didn't realize someone had already seen everything and even captured it all on video. Moments later, an old man rushed onto the road, cradling his grandson's body in his arms. He knew the truth. Even if the culprits were caught, a few years behind bars could never bring the boy back. He would take justice into his own hands. Using the license plate from the footage, he tracked down the couple, but he didn't strike right away. Instead, he waited, moving into their neighborhood, slipping into their lives as a kind stranger. Casual encounters, friendly favors. Little by little, he gained their trust until they welcomed him as a friend. Then the moment came. He gifted them 2 tickets for a dream trip to the Arctic, a journey he had carefully arranged. On the surface, it looked generosity. In reality, it was a carefully laid trap. The couple, unsuspecting, were swept away by the surprise, clueless that their real nightmare was only just beginning. They were about to pay the price for what they had done.
The moment the tiger breached the door, the girl dove into the ventilation duct. Below her, the beast, starving for 3 days, let out a deep growl. The narrow iron pipe was icy cold. She held her breath, clinging to the walls with her hands and feet. Just then, the phone on the ground rang. With one paw, the tiger shattered the phone. The girl's hand trembled, sweat dripping down her chin and into the tiger's mouth. The beast licked it, then slowly raised its head, its gaze fixed on her hiding place. The next moment, it leaped up, its sharp claws grazing her ankle. Her heart nearly exploded, and she struggled to climb up. The iron pipe scraped with a harsh sound, and the tiger pounced frantically, nearly catching her every time. She gritted her teeth, her arms numb, and finally climbed out of the pipe. Just as she caught her breath, she heard a soft sound behind her. It was her brother. She rushed into the room trying to call for help online, but the connection was down. Before she could react, a loud crash erupted from outside the door. The tiger approached. The girl quickly picked up her brother and crawled under the bed, spraying perfume all over the floor to mask the smell. The tiger burst through the door, sniffing the floor with its nose, then leaped onto the bed. The bed sank, nearly touching her face. She dared not make a sound. Only the rapid beating of her heart could be heard. The room fell into a dead silence. The girl slowly raised her head. In that instant, her eyes met the tiger's.
If you were given $100 million, but the price was to be transformed into a half-human, half-horse monster forever, would you accept? Alan was penniless and unemployed, living in his uncle's garage. The space was cramped, and the garage door often malfunctioned. Until one day, Alan finally found a job, a telemarketer. He was so happy that he splurged $3 on gas for his beat-up car. The car was incredibly basic, with manual windows and even manual windshield wipers. At the company, employees were divided into 2 groups. One group rode in luxurious private elevators, working in high-rise offices and earning high salaries, like true successful people. The other group was confined to the basement, making calls all day, earning barely enough to survive. Alan belonged to the second group.
Hello. sorry to bother.
Just as he was about to break down, an older employee whispered a tip to him.
So it's like what they think they're supposed to sound like.
Alan hesitated, but followed the advice. The next moment, everything changed. The people on the other end of the phone started listening to him seriously. Orders skyrocketed. The boss smiled at him for the first time. Alan thought he had finally succeeded, but what he didn't know was, from that moment on, he had been chosen. All humans die at the exact same moment. The lights stay on, machines keep running, but civilization has lost its operators. The world feels like someone pressed pause. What's disturbing is animals don't react at all. No panic, as if nothing happened. Is it a virus or a force that targets only humans? Now rewind to before the disaster. It all starts with something small, a drop in honey production. A beekeeper named Teddy becomes convinced this isn't a natural imbalance. It's an invasion. He believes aliens have already blended in, hiding inside corporations that control agriculture and chemicals. To save the planet, Teddy decides to strike first, their target, a pharmaceutical CEO named Ellie. To Teddy, Ellie isn't human. She's the alien commander responsible for the collapse of the bee population. The tools are primitive wires, bolts, chemical paste, and 2 blank human masks. They hide in the bushes outside Ellie's house. The moment she steps out alone, they move in, but everything goes wrong. Ellie reacts fast and fights back. She runs toward the backyard. Just as escape seems possible, Teddy lunges. She breaks free again, but after a few steps, she suddenly stops. A syringe is buried in her leg. The drug hits fast. She collapses. They take her and disappear into the night. While driving, Teddy gives a final order: shave her head. Because in his mind, alien hair is an antenna for signals. Ellie's hair is completely removed. But here's the real question. Was Ellie ever an alien at all? The man simply wanted to bend down to pick something up from the ground, but he saw a scene he couldn't comprehend.
Oh my God, what is happening?
And the real horror had only just begun. Late at night, a ball of gray fluff drifted through the gap under the door into the girl Laura's room. It rolled across the floor, finally stopping under the bed, and reformed into a bizarre rabbit. A slight rustling sound woke Laura. She wasn't suddenly afraid, but immediately certain that there was something under the bed. Her parents checked the room, but found nothing. In their eyes, it was just a child's nonsense. But they didn't realize that what truly terrified Laura wasn't the darkness, but that she was right, but no one believed her. That night, the rabbit appeared again. Laura hid in the corner, holding her breath, not daring to make a sound. Just then, clear and heavy footsteps came from downstairs. A strange man walked into the apartment from the back alley. Laura didn't know who he was, but instinctively realized that he was connected to the rabbit. She secretly followed him. In the alley, she saw a scene that no child should ever see. At that moment, she understood that this man was not the first time he had faced a monster. That night, Laura returned to her room, thinking she was finally safe. But she didn't notice that the man was quietly watching her.
Going downstairs. No one knew who had tied the almost invisible thread on the stair railing. Then, Annie put sleeping pills in the executive's wife's water glass. The woman's mind grew increasingly confused as she even began to doubt herself. And Anne watched all this, a slight smile playing on her lips. The cracks in the family widened. The husband began to suspect his wife. The son became infatuated with a female teacher. A seemingly perfect family was easily torn apart. Finally, Annie revealed her true colors. She tied up the executive's wife, intending to stage a scene of her suicide due to depression. But the irony of fate was that just as she was about to act, the executive inadvertently saw a photograph at the company. It was a photo of Annie and her husband. He seemed to realize something. Was it too late?
Darkness, but a blinding white light. That day, a car suddenly stops in the middle of the road. The driver frantically rubs his eyes but can't see anything. He tells passersby that it feels like something suddenly rushed into his eyes. A man offers to drive him home. After confirming the driver is truly blind, greed overcomes compassion. He lies, saying they've arrived home, but drives away with the car. That night, the driver, with his wife's help, finally arrives at the hospital. Ophthalmologist Jack examines him and finds no abnormalities in the driver's eyes. He has never seen this kind of white blindness before. But the next morning, Jack wakes up to find himself also blind. Fear instantly overwhelms his reason. He pushes his wife away, convinced that the patient from yesterday infected him. His wife calmly tells him, if it were contagious, she would have been blind last night. Meanwhile, blindness spreads rapidly throughout the city. The streets become chaotic. Hospitals are overwhelmed. The government intervenes, isolating all the blind people in an abandoned hospital. And just as everyone is plunged into this white abyss, an anomaly quietly appears. Julie, the only person in the hospital who hasn't gone blind.
Mistaking her for being unwell, gave her a massage. The extreme tension and excitement almost suffocated the woman. Her name was Helen. Her husband, Charles, was sickly and cold. Their home was more like a cold prison. Having been raised by her aunt since childhood, she learned obedience and patience, but also harbored a dangerous desire within her. Until that day, Charles brought home a friend, Paul. He was young and passionate. Her husband disappeared forever. At Paul's urging, the two meticulously planned an accident. After everything was over, they naturally married. But after the marriage, Helen's smile never returned. Her husband's death haunted her like a shadow, until one day, while bathing her seriously ill aunt, she lost control and revealed the truth about the murder. Her aunt was terrified but powerless. A few days later, relatives came to visit, and her aunt, with all her might, wrote